Welcome to the deep dive. You've probably heard the term metaverse buzzing around.
Oh, yeah, constantly.
For some, it's this, futuristic dream. For others, maybe it's already become a bit of a dismissive buzzword.
It happens fast.
But what if I told you it's actually quietly but profoundly shaping our lives right now, moving way beyond just a concept? It's becoming this evolving digital frontier that's, well, kind of already here in some surprising ways.
Interesting way to put it.
That's really our mission today. We want to cut through all that noise,
Yeah.
explore how the metaverse, using things like virtual and augmented reality, is already transforming the future of work and education.
Okay.
Talking practical solutions and honestly, some really surprising new possibilities opening up for you.
Good stuff.
For this deep dive, we've pulled from a really diverse stack of sources. We've got insights from a leading tech company on the future of work,
Okay.
a tech publications, a pretty sharp analysis of its workplace impact, and then an educational institution's perspective on how it fits into learning.
Got a good mix there.
Yeah, we think so. Our aim is basically to give you a shortcut to being well-informed, packed with those aha moments,
Love an aha moment.
without feeling like you're drowning in information.
Yeah.
So, get ready. We're going to unpack some truly fascinating insights.
All right, let's do it. It's interesting how often the metaverse is misunderstood, isn't it?
Totally.
It's like really crucial to understand it's not a single place you log into or, a specific device you hold.
Right.
At its core, it's really an evolution of the internet. Think of it like the internet, but experienced in a much more immersive, connected way.
Yeah, not just another website or some fancy app. It's more fundamental.
Exactly.
The term itself, lots of people know this. It goes back to Neil Stephenson's snow crash in '92. He called it a shared, persistent 3D digital world. How's that early idea kind of evolved into what we think of today?
Well, if you look at someone like Matthew Ball, he writes a lot about this. He defines it with some key features. It needs to be massively scalable, interoperable, real-time 3D.
Nice.
Their synchronicity, persistence things happen live, they stick around. But the real shift, I think, is that continuity of data, identity, objects, payments across different virtual worlds.
The continuity piece,
Yeah.
that sounds like the real game changer you mentioned.
Right.
Why is that so different from, the internet we use now?
Well, just imagine your digital stuff, your work history, maybe skills certificates, even your avatar moving seamlessly, verifiably across lots of platforms, not just stuck in one app.
Oh, okay.
That's a real shift in power and utility. And speaking of definitions, we need to be super clear. Virtual reality, VR, that's not the metaverse.
Right. Important distinction.
Yeah. VR is really just an interface, an experience. The metaverse is the much broader digital ecosystem that VR might give you access to. VR is a doorway, maybe, but definitely not the whole house.
So it really depends how you define it. And that leads to some, interesting contrasts and timelines for when it becomes mainstream. You hear someone like Satya Nadella at Microsoft saying the metaverse is already here, pointing to things like mesh team meetings or HoloLens overlays on factory floors, things happening now.
Precisely. Those are existing technologies, right? Embedding digital info into our real world. They show immediate utility.
But then you've got Mark Zuckerberg back in 2021 talking about an embodied metaverse
Yeah, I remember that.
that he expected to go mainstream over the next 5 to 10 years.
Mhm.
He was talking more about those bigger virtual worlds needing serious hardware.
Exactly. So it really depends on what, let's say, flavor of metaverse you're picturing and how high you set the bar for mainstream.
And that difference in vision brings us straight to some early hurdles. I read that early research showed just sticking a physical office into a 3D virtual space can actually reduce productivity for some tasks.
Yep, that's been reported.
And worse, it can make people feel sick, nausea, motion sickness. That's a massive problem if we want people using this for work all day.
It absolutely is. And it points to a really crucial design idea. The approach has got to be about rethinking our digital tools, our interactions.
Not just copying the physical world.
Exactly. Not just copying the physical into VR. A
Yeah.
successful metaverse app isn't just, a 3D Zoom call.
Okay, so if we're not just copying the physical office, what are the practical changes happening today at work? The general promise sounds pretty compelling, doesn't it?
It does.
More connection for remote workers, better collaboration, faster training, maybe needing less office space, happier employees. Let's dive into some specifics where this is actually taking hold now.
Okay. One of the most impactful areas we're seeing is definitely reducing risk in dangerous jobs.
Oh, so.
Well, take electricians. Using VR training, like on platforms such as Interplay, an apprentice can practice on, say, virtual live wires hundreds of times.
Wow, without getting hurt.
Exactly. Zero physical risk. And trainers can guide them, assess their performance almost like they're right there.
That sounds incredibly useful.
Huh.
But okay, beyond just avoiding injuries, which is huge, what's the biggest challenge in getting more companies to use this? Does it really prepare someone for a messy, real job site?
That's the key question, bridging that gap. An IDF white paper suggests these immersive tools make training more cost-effective, flexible, and safer. And it's not just theory.
Okay.
Groups like the Associated Builders and Contractors, ABC chapters, they're already putting VR into apprenticeship programs. They often find that, yeah, virtual practice is invaluable, but it's best combined with supervised, hands-on practice later.
Makes sense, sort of a blended approach.
Exactly.
Another really interesting application you mentioned focuses on empathy and retention, especially for caregivers. Carrie Shaw's Embodied Labs, letting caregivers simulate things like cognitive loss or vision loss in VR. How does that actually build empathy more than just, say, reading about it?
It's about the experience. Having the caregiver actually feel what it's like, even a little, to live with those impairments. It moves beyond just intellectual understanding to a more emotional connection. It's sensory.
Actually feeling it.
Yeah. And then there's Tailspin, doing VR for soft skills communication, emotional intelligence. They claim it's 4.5 times more effective than e-learning or classrooms.
4.5 times, that's huge.
It is, leading to a supposed 275% increase in confidence in those skills. That direct embodied practice seems to make a real difference.
This also seems to offer a unique way to extend careers, right? You mentioned workers in physically tough trades like welding or sheet metal work. They often hit limits as they get older. How does this help them?
Well, now, experienced workers, maybe they can't do the physical stuff as much, but they can become VR trainers.
Shifting roles.
Exactly. Using platforms like Interplay again. They move from physical labor to virtual instruction. They keep earning, they learn new digital skills. And the sources we looked at say younger folks are more engaged too because they see these training modules just like a game.
That's clever. Good for everyone involved.
It seems that way. A compelling path for both current and future workers.
And this leads right into opening up totally new job pathways. A Jobs for the Future report found, get this, 40% of over 40,000 job postings mentioning extended reality, XR,
40%.
required only a high school or associate degree, or sometimes no education requirements at all. That feels like a big deal for accessibility, doesn't it?
Absolutely huge. It means someone could potentially start as, say, an XR tech support specialist and then skill up into virtual world design or sales or consulting within that space.
Wow.
And if you look bigger picture, that Deloitte report from Meta estimated the metaverse could add between, $402 billion and $760 billion to the U.S. economy by 2035.
That's serious money.
It is. It signals a whole new job market kind of emerging.
Okay, and the last work application we touched on was alternatives to physical prototypes. Artists like Quitman Farmer at QNED Animations creating digital twins of buildings in AR/VR. How does that change things?
Well, it means you can potentially skip those super expensive physical models altogether.
Saves a lot of money, I bet.
Definitely. Designs can be changed easily, quickly, and crucially, multiple designers can collaborate in real time from anywhere. They can all interact with the same virtual model like they're in the same room.
That collaboration part sounds key, especially now.
Yeah, and it's especially good for smaller businesses, It kind of democratizes high-end design visualization.
So looking at all those work examples, what's the common thread? It seems like it's the metaverse's unique ability to simulate things, connect people differently, personalize experiences.
Yeah, in ways flat screens just can't.
Moving beyond flat screens to more immersive, maybe more empathetic, and certainly economically impactful interactions. Okay, but beyond work, the potential to change how we learn seems just as big. Let's shift the deep dive to education.
Yeah, this is where it gets really exciting, I think. The metaverse aims to, bring subjects to life through really immersive experiences using AR, VR, maybe blockchain for secure credentials, IoT for smart classrooms, 3D modeling. It's about encouraging real-time student collaboration and prepping them for the tech-driven world they're already in.
And the benefits seem pretty clear right off the bat. First, just engagement.
Huge.
Interactive environments, maybe gamified lessons, real-world simulations. It just seems way more immersive than a textbook or even watching a video.
Yeah.
Boosts participation.
Absolutely. And then there's accessibility. The metaverse can break down traditional barriers. geography, cost, even physical ability.
Making education more inclusive.
Yeah, much more inclusive and fair. Think about students in remote areas getting access to world-class labs virtually, or students with physical limitations joining field trips they couldn't otherwise.
That opens up so many doors. And then
Yeah.
the hands-on learning aspect.
Right. Students can do simulations, practical exercises, get exposure to real-world stuff, even virtually. It's learning by doing, but without the physical limits or risks.
Like dissecting a virtual frog instead of a real one.
Exactly. Or practicing a complex surgery with zero risk to a patient.
Okay, so what are some specific applications we're seeing?
Well, virtual 3D classrooms, trying to bridge that online and campus gap, letting students connect from anywhere but in a more interactive, embodied way than just a video grid.
Mm-hmm.
Digital learning using smart classes for full immersion in multimedia.
And it goes beyond the classroom too, right? Like virtual campus activities.
Yeah, giving students anywhere a feel for campus life, letting them join virtual clubs or events, or virtual tours, transporting students anywhere in the world in minutes.
To historical sites, different countries?
Without leaving their chair. Imagine walking through ancient Rome or exploring the Amazon rainforest in real time. That's a game changer for engagement.
Definitely beats looking at pictures.
For sure. These immersive environments let students explore historical events firsthand, maybe walk through a key moment, or conduct complex science experiments virtually that would be too expensive or dangerous otherwise.
Moving from just watching to actually doing.
Exactly. Active participation.
And one of the most powerful ideas seems to be personalized learning. Using AI, maybe.
Yeah, AI-driven virtual tutors, adaptive systems that tailor lessons to individual learning styles. Students can progress at their own pace.
So everyone gets what they need when they need it.
That's the goal, a truly individualized approach, but scalable. Ultimately, it's about simulating real-life situations, complex ones, for deeper learning and practical skills, preparing students not just with facts, but with usable experience.
It all sounds incredibly promising, doesn't it?
It really does.
But as with any big new technology, the metaverse isn't without its significant challenges. Things that are still very much works in progress. So what are the big roadblocks right now?
Well, one major concern is something being called metaverse fatigue.
Like Zoom fatigue, but more intense.
Potentially, yeah. A German study had people do regular desk work in VR for a whole week.
Whole week, wow.
Yeah. Participants reported simulator sickness, lower performance, eye strain, just frustration. It suggests that unless the user experience is really top-notch and its use is thoughtful, metaverse fatigue is a real issue.
Yeah, you can't just expect people to plug in for 8 hours straight like it's nothing.
Not realistically, no.
And there are serious worries about diversity and inclusiveness too, aren't there?
Very serious. Issues like sexual abuse and harassment of avatars have already popped up in early platforms.
That's awful.
It is. And accessibility for people with disabilities is still a major hurdle. Plus, the cost of good hardware and needing fast internet can easily exclude people, creating another digital divide.
Yeah, the access issue is key.
And then there's security and privacy. This is a big one.
How so?
AR, VR, mixed reality. These tools capture incredibly rich biometric data, facial features, unique gestures, eye movement.
Stuff that's unique to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If that data isn't secured properly, it could potentially be used to steal identities or even create really invasive deepfakes. That raises huge ethical questions.
That is. Yeah, that's a chilling thought. And practically speaking, just getting these tools integrated smoothly into how companies already work seems like a challenge.
Definitely. Organizations are still figuring out when and where AR and VR actually add value, versus just being a novelty or another thing to manage.
Finding the right use cases.
Finding the right sustainable use cases,
Right.
which naturally leads to the need for reskilling.
The impact on jobs.
Yeah. Think back, like when personal computers replace typing pools, the metaverse will likely make some work easier, but it also threatens some existing jobs.
So we need to retrain people.
We need to reskill workers so they can operate effectively in these new environments, adapt to new kinds of roles.
So it's clear this isn't some fixed destination we've arrived at. The metaverse is still in evolution.
Still evolving, absolutely.
And because it's still changing, companies face real challenges predicting its full impact, figuring out their place in it. We're talking new ways to do repairs, adaptive signs in stores, collaborative 3D simulations for big decisions.
These are just a fraction of the ways virtual worlds could transform work.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, our listener? As we've sort of unpacked today, the metaverse, yeah, it's still unfolding, but it's clearly moving beyond just sci-fi.
Definitely offering tangible changes.
Right. Tangible, impactful changes in how we train, how we collaborate, how we learn. It's about more than just logging into some virtual world. It's about making work safer, maybe learning more engaging, and opportunities more accessible.
And understanding these shifts isn't just for the tech gurus anymore. It's really crucial for anyone trying to navigate careers and education in the next few years.
Exactly. Which leaves us with maybe one final thought for you to chew on.
Hmm.
Given everything we've talked about today,
Mm.
the good, the bad, the challenges, the innovations, those blurred lines between physical and virtual,
Hmm.
what unimagined human interaction or maybe skill might the metaverse uniquely enhance, becoming a truly indispensable tool in our daily lives down the road? Something we haven't even thought of yet.